A single mom was sent to destroy a billionaire, but fell in love instead. Sophie's hand trembled as she aimed the gun at the sleeping man's chest. On the phone pressed to her ear, Marcus's voice crackled through, cold and steady. "Pull the trigger now, or your son dies." Her vision blurred. Her finger tightened on the trigger. "I'm sorry," she whispered. For one suspended moment, the entire world balanced on the movement of her hand. 6 weeks earlier, desperation had a way of clinging to a person. It seeped into their clothes and hair and voice until it became part of how they walked through the world. Sophie Hale carried it with her as she pushed through the brass doors of Echelon, the city's most exclusive underground bar. The place smelled like money and secrets. She had exactly $47 in her checking account. Her son's treatments were scheduled for Monday. The hospital had already called twice about her outstanding balance. She could not afford another call. Echelon's low amber lighting washed over polished marble, velvet chairs, and men who thought they owned the city. Sophie had worked here for 8 months. In that time, she had learned a painful truth about herself. She was very good at lying. She could make powerful men feel fascinating. She could tilt her head, smile, and coax out things their lawyers would never want in writing. It had started 6 months earlier, with a drunk hedge fund manager who left his phone on the bar unlocked. Sophie had taken a photo of a confidential email. Later, she sold it through an encrypted app to an anonymous buyer for $2,000. $2,000 meant her son's medication and rent for another month. One desperate moment turned into a pattern. A pattern turned into a side job. In 6 months, Sophie had perfected it into an art form. Tonight, her target sat alone at the far end of the bar. Silver threaded his dark hair. His suit looked understated, but extremely expensive. His posture was relaxed in the way of men who had never wondered how they would pay a bill. Something about him made the hair on her neck stand up. But dangerous men often had the most valuable secrets. She drifted closer, wiping the bar, checking bottles, letting him notice her. She did not have to wait long. "You work here often?" His voice cut easily through the music and low conversation. Sophie turned to him with a practiced smile. "Most nights. Can I get you something?" "I find myself more interested in conversation." He gestured to the stool beside him. "Do you have a minute?" Her instincts told her to walk away. Her $47, her son's pale face, her mother's shaking hands told her to stay. "For a minute," she said. He took her hand. His grip was firm and just a little too long. "Marcus." "Lena," she lied smoothly. He studied her like she was an investment he was considering. Then came the questions. Simple on the surface, carefully chosen, underneath. Where she grew up, why she worked here, what she thought of men who spent this much on alcohol. Every answer was a test. After 20 minutes, unease coiled in her stomach. This man was not drunk. He was not careless. He was playing a different game. "I should get back to work," she said. Marcus ordered an expensive wine. When it arrived, he raised his glass. "To chance meetings." Everything in her screamed that this was wrong, but a small sip of wine felt easier than risking him noticing her refusal. She smiled and drank. Somewhere in the next hour, the world began to tilt. She felt like someone had stuffed her thoughts with cotton. Her limbs went heavy. The room swayed. "You look pale," Marcus said. His voice sounded far away. "I just need air," Sophie managed. Her tongue felt thick. Marcus stood smoothly and reached for her elbow. "Let me help you." Sophie tried to pull away, but her body no longer obeyed her. She caught glimpses. Familiar faces turned deliberately away, the cool bite of night air, the leather interior of a car. Then nothing. Cold water hit her face like a slap. Sophie gasped and jerked upright, only to feel the bite of plastic cutting into her wrists. Zip ties. Her arms were bound behind a chair. She was in a luxury penthouse high above the city. Floor-to-ceiling windows, sculptures that probably cost more than her entire life savings. The skyline glittered outside, completely indifferent. Marcus sat across from her, perfectly calm, as if this were a casual business meeting. "Welcome back." Sophie tested her restraints and focused on him. "Where's my son?" Marcus raised a hand, calm. "We will get to that." He picked up a tablet from the table beside him and tapped the screen. An all-too-familiar interface appeared, her encrypted messaging app. Every transaction she had ever made glowed in neat rows, dates, amounts, subjects. $40,000 in 6 months, Marcus said. "Impressive. You learned fast." Sophie's blood ran cold. "You have no idea who you were selling to, do you?" Marcus continued. "That app you used? I own it. Every buyer on it works for me. Every secret you stole and sold came straight back to my people." Her throat felt tight. "Why show me this? What do you want?" He swiped to another screen. Her driver's license photo, her address. A picture of Christopher at school, laughing at something off camera. A shot of her mother coming out of a pharmacy. Sophie Marie Hale, Marcus read. 29. Single mother to Christopher Hale, age 7. Requires monthly treatments that cost $15,000. Most recent payment? Late. He looked up at her. "I was building leverage, waiting for the right candidate. Someone with skill, desperation, and motivation." He swiped again. Christopher, in a hospital bed, asleep, wires snaking out from under his blanket. "Touch my son and I'll..." Her voice shook, but the rage underneath was real. "I'll end you." "I have no interest in hurting him," Marcus said calmly. "In fact, I plan to pay for his treatments, erase your debts, and give him the best care possible." He tapped again. On the screen appeared a symbol, a red Spartan helmet. "In exchange," he said, "for one job." Sophie stared at the symbol, then at him. "What kind of job?" Marcus leaned back in his chair. 10 years ago, a man who called himself Aries destroyed my business empire and put me in prison for 5 years. I never saw his face. He hid behind this symbol and a network of intermediaries. But I know he is connected to the Monarch Club, an exclusive establishment for the elite. He set the tablet down. "You are going to get hired there. You will work your way inside and find out who Aries really is. His name, his face, where he lives. That is all I want. And if I refuse..." Her voice came out low. Marcus picked up his phone and brought up a video. He turned the screen toward her. Christopher appeared, asleep in his bed, filmed through the window from outside. Someone zoomed in slowly, too slowly. Sophie's heart stopped. "No, no." "Refuse," Marcus said. "And your son has an unfortunate accident, then your mother, then you. In that order." He let the words sit, then his tone softened as if they were discussing a charity project. "Cooperate, and your son receives everything he needs. You walk away clean when this is over. No debt, no trail." Sophie stared at Christopher's sleeping face, her vision blurring. Every choice she had ever made had led her here. There was no route that did not go through this man. "What do you need me to do?" she asked. Marcus smiled. It was almost gentle. "First, we move your son and your mother to a secure medical facility. Better staff, no debt collectors, no social workers asking questions. As far as they know, it will be a special program. You mean a prison? Sophie said. I mean leverage, Marcus corrected. They will be comfortable. You will video chat regularly. As long as you do what you are told, everyone lives. He took a small white card from his wallet and held it between two fingers. A single phone number was printed on it. Memorize this, he said. Then destroy it. You will not save it in your phone. You will not write it down. You will not breathe a word of this to anyone. If you deviate, even once, your family dies. Are we clear? Crystal, Sophie said. There was no point pretending she had a choice. 3 days later, Sophie stood in front of the Monarch Club and tried to remember how to breathe. The building itself was discreet. Dark stone, tinted glass, no sign. Only the discreet brass plaque near the door marked it as anything other than another expensive piece of the skyline. In the reflection, she barely recognized herself. Her hair was sleek, styled into a smooth bob that framed her face. Her makeup was flawless, but restrained. Her dress was a simple, elegant black that suggested old money rather than desperation. Sophie Hale, broke single mother, did not belong here. Lena Vaughn, sophisticated mixologist with impeccable references, did. A woman in an immaculate gray suit opened the door from the inside. Good afternoon. Do you have an appointment? I do, Sophie said. Lena Vaughn, interview for the mixologist position. The woman checked a tablet, then nodded. Of course, Miss Vaughn. Right this way. As Sophie followed her through the lobby, she felt Sophie Hale fall away like an old coat. Lena Vaughn walked with straight shoulders and unshakable composure. Sophie kept repeating one truth in her mind. If she did not do this, Christopher would die. The deeper they went into the Monarch Club, the more intense it felt. Crystal chandeliers scattered light across marble floors. Dark leather furniture absorbed the sound of quiet, expensive conversations. Oil paintings in gilded frames watched everything. The woman led her into a private office with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves and a minimal desk. I'm Victoria Chen, the operations manager, she said, gesturing to a chair. Please sit. Sophie sat. Lena sat. She folded her hands neatly in her lap. Victoria did not waste time with small talk. We expect a great deal from our staff, Miss Vaughn. Our clients value privacy above all. Have you worked in high-discretion environments before? Yes, Sophie said smoothly. My previous position required absolute confidentiality. The clientele were particular. It was true in a way. Echelon's clients wanted discretion too, just for different reasons. The questions came steadily. How would she handle a client who became inappropriate? What would she do if she overheard potentially illegal business? How did she feel about signing a strict non-disclosure agreement with legal and financial consequences? Every question was a test of loyalty and silence. Sophie answered with the careful phrases Marcus had drilled into her. Privacy was the ultimate luxury. Her job was to serve drinks, provide a pleasant atmosphere, and remember nothing that did not appear on a receipt. Victoria watched her without expression. Sophie forced herself not to fidget. Finally, Victoria nodded. Your application is impressive. Your answers are acceptable. We will, however, need to see you in action. Of course, Sophie said. Her pulse hammered. We have an opening tonight. One of our bartenders called in sick. You will work an audition shift. If you perform well, you will be offered a permanent position. Relief flooded Sophie's chest, but she kept her face calm. Tonight works. Be back at 6, Victoria said, standing. Dress code is black, elegant, unobtrusive. Zane will train you. She extended her hand. Her grip was firm. "Welcome to the Monarch Club, Miss Vaughn. Do not disappoint me." Sophie walked out of the office with a job, a fake name, and a mission that could cost her everything, including the first man she had no idea she was about to fall for. The apartment Marcus provided was tasteful and impersonal. It felt like a set stage, a place designed for someone pretending to have a life. Sophie paced from window to kitchen to bedroom and back, trying to quiet the noise in her mind. She had passed the first test. Now came the harder part. Working inside the Monarch Club while trying to uncover a ghost called Aries without setting off alarms. She called the facility where Christopher and her mother had been moved. A calm voice told her Christopher was resting and could not be disturbed. It was said so casually, like they were denying her a routine appointment instead of access to her own child. Rage rose like a wave. She swallowed it down. She could not afford to make mistakes now. Finding Aries was the only way out. At 5:30, she stepped through the staff entrance at the Monarch Club, dressed exactly as Victoria had instructed. Black dress, black heels, hair pinned back. A staff member pointed her toward the main bar. A man stood there polishing glasses, his movements precise and unhurried. As she approached, he looked up. "Lena?" he asked. Sophie nodded. "Yes, you must be Zane." He was younger than she expected, early 30s. Dark hair fell just a little too long over his forehead, like he had pushed it back one too many times. His eyes were sharp, quietly observant. When he smiled, it reached those eyes in a way that felt real. "Lena, great to meet you," he said, reaching across the bar to shake her hand. His grip was warm, steady, and not too long. "Victoria told me you'd be shadowing tonight. Don't worry, she makes it sound scarier than it is. The clients are demanding, but they're predictable. Follow their patterns, remember their drinks, you'll be fine." His voice was calm, friendly, not the smooth performance she was used to from men in expensive places. It caught her off guard. "I'll try not to break anything expensive," Sophie said. Zane laughed, a genuine sound that eased some of the tightness in her chest. "The glasses are insured. My patients, less so. Come on, I'll show you the setup." As he walked her through the bar's layout, top-shelf liquors, private label bottles, special reserve items for certain members. Sophie watched more than she listened. He moved with easy confidence, like the bar was an extension of him. Other staff members nodded to him, subtle deference in the way they stepped aside or checked in. He smiled and joked with them like a friendly coworker. But there was something else under it. Awareness. Control. "So," he said as he stacked clean glassware, "what brought you to the Monarch Club? This place is not usually a first choice." Sophie gave her rehearsed answer about leaving high-volume bar work for something more refined, about valuing craft over chaos, about wanting a place where the details mattered. "Good answer for the interview," Zane said, a hint of amusement in his eyes. "But what's the real one?" The question caught her off guard. She straightened a bottle that did not need straightening. "Maybe that is the real one." "Maybe," he said. He did not sound convinced. People who end up working in places like this usually fall into two groups: those running from something and those looking for something they can't find anywhere else. Sophie felt his gaze on her. "Which are you?" she asked, trying to shift the focus back to him. "Both, probably," Zane said. For a moment, the easy humor faded and something older settled in his eyes. "I made some bad choices in a previous life. Tech industry. Thought I was smarter than I was. Got burned, lost everything. Had to disappear and start over." Sophie recognized the tone. There was real pain under the carefully chosen words. He was telling the truth, but not all of it. "Starting over sounds nice," she said quietly. Their eyes met. For a moment, the buzz of the club faded. There was just the woman who had lost everything and the man who was pretending he had not. Then the first clients arrived. The moment shattered, and Zane turned to greet them by name. The rest of the night moved in a careful blur. Sophie learned quickly. Zane showed her how certain regulars wanted their drinks stirred, not shaken. How one member would tip outrageously if she remembered to add a single twist of orange peel. How another cared more about the temperature of his glass than the whiskey inside it. Zane never wrote anything down, but he remembered everything. She also watched how he moved through the space without seeming to. How he noticed arguments brewing in corners. How he saw when a server needed help or when a member was crossing a line with staff. More than once, he stepped in with a well-timed joke or a new drink suggestion that split apart tension before it had time to grow. During a lull, Sophie took a risk. "The owner must really trust you," she said lightly, polishing a glass. "You seem to know how everything works here." Zane's expression stayed pleasant, but something in his shoulders tightened. "I've been here a while," he said. "You learn the rhythms." "Do you ever see him? The owner?" "Occasionally," Zane said. He wiped down the bar with deliberate strokes. "He's very private. Prefers to let Victoria handle the day-to-day." Sophie stored that away. If the owner was connected to Ari's, getting close to anyone he trusted would be crucial. She listened for an opening and dropped the name like a casual curiosity. "Someone mentioned a strange name before I applied here. Ari's, like the god of war. Is that some kind of club joke?" For a fraction of a second, Zane's hands stilled. It was so brief that most people would have missed it. Then he resumed cleaning, voice easy again. "Rich people love their code names and stories. Ares, Zeus, whatever makes them feel powerful. I don't pay much attention. Half of it is rumor, half of it is people trying to sound important." Before she could push further, a group of executives approached the bar, loud and demanding. Zane's attention shifted, and the moment slipped away. Still, something in her gut whispered that she had hit on something real, and that Zane's reaction had not been as casual as he wanted her to believe. Near midnight, when the last clients finally drifted out and staff began to clean, Zane turned to her. "You did really well tonight," he said. "Victoria's going to offer you the job." "Thanks," Sophie said. "You're a good teacher." "I try." He hesitated, then continued. "Some of us go for drinks after Friday shifts. Dive bar a few blocks down. No velvet ropes, no dress code. You should come sometime. It helps to have somewhere normal after this place." He said it casually, but there was a softness in his gaze that made her chest tighten. On any other mission, she might have kept her distance. This time, getting close to him was not a liability. It was required. "I'd like that," she said. Walking back to the car Marcus had provided, Sophie took out the simple phone he had given her for secure messages. Her fingers flew over the keypad. Hired. Working first full shift tomorrow. Training with senior bartender. Mentioned Aries. Subject recognized name but deflected. Will pursue. Marcus's reply came within seconds. "Good. Get close to him. Find out what he knows. You have 4 weeks. 4 weeks to find a ghost. 4 weeks before Marcus's patience and Christopher's safety ran out." Sophie took out the photo she kept tucked in her wallet. Christopher smiled up at the camera, one front tooth missing, his eyes bright and hopeful. "I'm going to keep you safe," she whispered. no matter what it takes. Even if it meant lying to a man who laughed easily and watched everything. Even if it meant letting herself care when she had no right to. Somewhere in the city, Marcus watched the small blinking dot that marked her phone's location. His weapon was moving exactly where he wanted. Sophie told herself she was simply cultivating a source when she agreed to meet Zane for coffee before her next shift. It was not personal, she argued with herself. It was strategic. Coffee in the morning meant information at night. But her pulse still jumped when she saw him waiting outside the cafe in a worn leather jacket, hands tucked into his pockets, 2 cups already in hand. "You actually came," he said, smile easy. "I wasn't sure if you were just being polite." Sophie took the cup he held out. It was black with 1 sugar, exactly how she had taken it at the club. "You remembered how I take my coffee," she said. "You mentioned it once," Zane replied. "I listen." They fell into step together, walking through the quiet morning streets as the city stretched awake around them. Their conversation slid easily from favorite drinks to strange client requests to the kind of music they put on when they could not sleep. When he asked about her background, Sophie slid into Lena Vaughn's life as smoothly as breathing. Elite boarding school. A short, rebellious stint at a culinary institute in Paris. Wealthy parents who disapproved of her working at all, much less in a private club. The lies flowed in a practiced stream. What unsettled her was how much truth she had to weave between them to make them sound real. The pressures, the loneliness, the feeling of always being slightly out of place. Zane listened more than he talked. He did not interrupt. He asked questions that made it clear he remembered details from previous conversations. Most people only heard what they wanted. Zane heard everything. "What about you?" Sophie asked finally. "You said you worked in tech before. What happened?" For a moment, something shuddered behind his eyes. "I worked for a company that was not what it claimed to be," he said. "When everything fell apart, I was close enough to the center that I got burned. Lost my career, my reputation, my savings. I had to disappear and rebuild from scratch." There was truth in his words. Sophie could feel it. But there were also holes large enough to hide entire lives inside. "You did rebuild," she said. "You seem settled here." "Settled and stuck are not the same thing," Zane replied quietly. The words hung between them, heavy with meanings they did not fully share. Over the next week, their routines formed without either of them naming it. Coffee before shifts, banter during slow minutes at the bar, walks to the parking lot, occasional drinks after closing with other staff members that somehow always ended with the 2 of them talking the longest. Sophie kept telling herself it was part of the job. The closer Zane felt to her, the more likely he was to drop something useful. But he made her laugh in ways she had forgotten she could. He noticed when she was tired and slid a glass of water across the bar without comment. He remembered the lies she had told as Lena, but he also noticed tiny things that were not part of any script, like how she always tensed when someone mentioned hospitals. The way he looked at her sometimes, like he could see past the layers and did not hate what was underneath, terrified her more than Marcus's threats. One Friday night, a member had too much to drink and decided Sophie's arm was his. Before she could decide how to handle it, Zane appeared at her side with another drink for the man and a gentle joke that redirected his attention. Later, when they were walking to her car, Zane shook his head. "Clients like that are why we have security," he said. "You do not have to fight everyone by yourself." Sophie smiled, but it did not quite reach her eyes. "I've been fighting by myself for a long time. Can I ask you something?" Zane said. His tone changed. The humor slipped away. Sure. Why do you always look like you're searching for something? He asked quietly. Like you came here for more than just a job. Her heart stumbled. What do you mean? I mean that you watch everything, Zane said. People, exits, schedules. Like you're trying to fit pieces together. Or like you're running from something that might catch up if you stop moving. For a second, she wanted to tell him everything. That she had been blackmailed. That her son was being held somewhere she could only see on a screen. That every moment with him was both real and being used as a weapon against him. The urge scared her. Aren't we all running from something? She said instead. Zane's mouth curved, but his eyes stayed serious. Yeah, he said. I guess we are. He stepped closer, close enough that she could feel his warmth even in the cool night air. Sophie, he said softly in another life. But here with the mask still on, he said. Lena. Yes? She asked. He hesitated for only a heartbeat. I've been wanting to do this for a while. He leaned in and kissed her. It was not the kind of kiss she was used to from drunk men in expensive suits. It was careful and gentle and entirely present. She should have pulled back. She should have remembered the cameras, Marcus, the gun that did not yet exist in her future but was already waiting for her. Instead, she kissed him back. When they finally parted, Zane looked almost shy. Sorry, that was... Me too, Sophie said, because it was the first honest thing she could push past the lies. I wanted that too. She drove home with her heart pounding and guilt weighing heavy over the warmth in her chest. If you're still here, you're amazing. Let's keep going. Things are about to get intense. After that night, everything became more complicated. Sophie forced herself to keep working the mission. Between shifts, she chatted with servers and floor staff, piecing together what she could about the club's deeper operations. During one break, a server named Michelle leaned on the bar and lowered her voice. The owner practically lives upstairs, she said. Private office, private lounge, security that makes airports look relaxed. I've been here 2 years and I've never seen his face. That is unusual, Sophie said, keeping her tone casual. Everything about this place is unusual, Michelle replied. But the pay is good, and he doesn't ask questions about our pasts. Nobody pushes too hard. That night, Sophie sent Marcus a brief update. Owner operates from private upstairs office. High security. Staff has never seen him. Possible link to Ari's. The reply came quickly. Get upstairs. Get into that office. Find proof. She typed back with careful fingers. Restricted access. Need clearance. Marcus's response was shorter this time. Seduce someone who has it. Or find another way. 2 weeks left. Sophie stared at the screen until it dimmed. The invisible rope around her neck tightened another notch. The next night, as they closed, Sophie wiped down the bar while Zane finished paperwork. Do you ever go upstairs? She asked. To the restricted floors? Zane paused just slightly in signing his name. Sometimes, he said. Why? Curiosity, Sophie said, adding a small shrug. The mysterious owner, all the locked doors. It feels like working in the lobby of a secret. He gave a short, quiet laugh. Curiosity about the wrong things can be dangerous in a place like this, he said gently. Some doors are better left closed, Lena. I was just wondering, she replied quickly. Forget I said anything. He did not press further, but later she caught him watching her reflection in the mirrored back wall of the bar. his expression unreadable. For the first time since meeting him, she wondered if she was the only one investigating something. She made her decision a few nights later. It was a Tuesday. Half the city had apparently decided to stay home. The club was quiet. Zane disappeared through a staff door marked "Authorized Personnel Only" and was gone for nearly 20 minutes. When he came back, his jaw was tight, and his smile did not quite make it to his eyes. He went back to work as if nothing had happened. "Everything okay?" Sophie asked. "Just owner business," Zane said. "Long night." Owner business. Upstairs. Restricted floors. If she wanted to find Aries, she needed access to wherever Zane had just been. The solution Marcus wanted was obvious. It made Sophie feel sick. She had to get closer. Close enough that trust became a doorway. Over the next days, their routines shifted again. Coffee before work turned into lingering walks, where Sophie found herself telling him things she had not planned to say, even if they were wrapped in Lena's invented life. Late-night talks in the quiet hours after closing moved from the bar to corners of the club where the staff sat, exhausted, and watched the cleaning crews work. When they walked to her car, they walked slower. Each time he smiled a certain way. Each time he brought her favorite pastry without asking. Each time he listened to a story that was half lie and half truth, and still treated it like it mattered. The guilt in Sophie's chest grew heavier. On Friday night, after the last member left and the tills were counted, Zane was going through inventory. "Sophie," he said, and her heart gave a jolt at hearing her real name in his voice, even when he still used Lena out loud. "I wanted to talk to you." She came around the bar to him. "About what?" "About us," he said. His voice was quiet. "About where this is going." She looked up at him and saw the answer she already knew. He was falling. She was halfway there already, and she was lying to him every single day. The mission pressed in. Marcus's deadline ticked in the back of her mind like a metronome. Instead of talking, she leaned up and kissed him. It was easier than trying to find words that did not exist. He reacted instantly, pulling her closer with careful hands. When they broke apart, his voice sounded rough. "Come home with me." Marcus's messages burned in her memory. 2 weeks left. Get upstairs. Seduce someone with clearance. She knew exactly what she was doing when she said, "Okay." Zane's apartment surprised her. She expected something like the club, sleek, controlled, nothing out of place. Instead, books crowded shelves in uneven stacks. A guitar leaned against the wall. Photos hung on the walls, but they were almost all of landscapes. Mountains at sunrise, a city skyline from high above, a coastline at dusk. It felt lived in, real. They sat on his couch, the city lights spread out beneath the windows like spilled stars. Conversation came easily, as it always did. But tonight, there was more beneath it. More pauses. More glances that lasted a heartbeat too long. Zane shared pieces of his past in more detail, though Sophie could still feel the places he skipped. The company that had collapsed, the investigation that followed, the people who walked away when it became easier to believe headlines than history. Sophie shared things too. She wrapped them in Lena's biography, but the feelings underneath were all hers. The fear of failing someone who depended on her. The exhaustion of always being the one holding everything together. The ache of never being able to admit how tired she truly was. The lies and truths tangled until she could no longer easily separate them. When Zane kissed her again, it felt even more inevitable than before. She let herself fall into it. One moment of gentleness stolen from a life built on pressure and fear. She woke before dawn in a bed that was not hers. The room was quiet, soft gray light seeping around the curtains. Zane was not beside her, but she heard clinking in the distance, the faint murmur of the coffee maker. For a moment, she allowed herself to simply feel it. Warmth, safety, the soft ache in her chest that came from being held and not from terror. Then reality crashed back. She stared at the ceiling. She had crossed a line she could not uncross. She had used physical intimacy as a weapon, just as Marcus wanted. Worse, she had wanted it too. She swung her legs out of bed and sat at the edge, head in her hands. This was never supposed to become real. She found her phone on the nightstand. No new messages from Marcus yet, but that did not mean he was not watching. From the kitchen, she heard Zane humming softly, the domestic sound almost painful in its normalcy. She had come here to get closer, so she could eventually use him to reach the restricted floors. Instead, she had let him into the parts of her heart she had promised herself she would keep locked forever. Over the next few days, everything intensified. Zane was more attentive, not less. He did not demand her time, but he made sure she knew he wanted it. A coffee waiting for her before her shift. A text, checking if she got home safely. A hand on her lower back guiding her through the club when clients grew too rowdy. At work, they moved together effortlessly behind the bar, passing bottles and glasses almost without looking. They anticipated each other's motions like they had done this for years instead of weeks. Sophie knew it was dangerous. The closer they grew, the worse the inevitable betrayal would hurt. But pulling back now would only raise questions she could not afford him asking. On Wednesday night, as she gathered her things to leave, Zane stepped in front of her. "I want to show you something," he said. The tone of his voice made her heart jump. "What is it?" "Do you trust me?" he asked. The word carved through her. Trust. She had weaponized his. She had not earned his. She did not deserve the way he looked at her now. But Marcus's deadline had not moved. She still needed information. She still needed to get upstairs. "Yes," she said. He smiled and took her hand. "Come on." He led her down a back corridor she had not been down before, walls lined with art that probably meant something to someone. At the end of the hallway, an elevator waited, its doors a seamless sheet of mirrored steel. A keycard slot glowed on the panel. Zane swiped his card. The elevator doors slid open. Inside, he pressed a button she had never seen lit before. The elevator began to rise. Sophie's pulse hammered. This was it. The inner circle. The place only people with real access could reach. When the doors opened, her breath caught. The private lounge looked out over the city from even higher than the main floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows wrapped the room, revealing a sea of lights. The furniture here was even more luxurious, arranged in intimate clusters. A bar stood in one corner, fully stocked but unused. "This is," Sophie began. "The owner's private floor," Zane said. "Office, lounge. Sometimes he entertains select clients here. Mostly he works." Her gaze landed on the large desk positioned near the windows. A laptop sat on it, open, its screen dim but not dark. Her heart thudded harder. "I shouldn't be here," she said automatically. "Relax," Zane said gently. "You're with me?" Her feet moved toward the desk, almost against her will. As she drew closer, the laptop screen woke fully. Folders filled the desktop. One of them was marked with a familiar symbol, a red Spartan helmet, the same symbol Marcus had shown her in the penthouse. Her breath left her in a short, sharp sound. She stepped closer. On the screen, several files had small helmet icons instead of generic folder images. Ari's, She was standing in the middle of the very web Marcus had been chasing for a decade. "You're looking for him, aren't you?" Zane's voice came from behind her. It was quiet, no longer casual. Sophie froze. Slowly, she turned. "What?" she asked, even though she knew exactly what he meant. "Aries," Zane said. He stepped closer, but his posture was relaxed, not threatening. "You've been asking about him since you started. Carefully, but consistently. I pay attention." Her mind raced. "You think I'm here because of a name I overheard once?" she said. It's all right," Zane said softly. "I know you're in trouble." The words hit harder than any threat Marcus had made. "I work for him very closely," Zane continued. "I know what he's capable of. I know what this club really is. I also know that you are not who you say you are. You do not move like someone who has always lived in the world Lena Vaughn is supposed to come from." Her throat felt dry. "You don't know anything about me." "I know enough." Zane reached for her hand, slowly, giving her time to pull away. She did not. "If I tell you what you want to know, you have to promise me something." "What?" she whispered. "You have to trust me," he said. "You have to let me help you, whatever you are tangled in. I'm not your enemy, Sophie." Her name on his lips broke something inside her. "I never told you my real name," she said. "I know," Zane replied. "But I looked anyway. I needed to know who you were before I decided whether letting you into this world was a risk worth taking." Tears burned at the back of her eyes. "If you know who I am, then you know what Marcus is holding over me." "I do," Zane said. His gaze was steady, kind in a way she did not deserve. "I know about your son. I know Marcus relocated him and your mother. I know he is using them to force your hand." Her knees felt weak. She gripped the edge of the desk to steady herself. "Then why didn't you turn me in?" she asked. "I've been lying to you since the moment we met." "Because I wanted to see if you would tell me the truth," Zane said. "Whether you would trust me on your own. And because what I feel for you is not something I am willing to throw away without understanding it." He took a breath, as if preparing himself. "You wanted to know who Aries is," he said. "You wanted a name, a face, a location." Sophie's heart pounded so loudly she could barely hear his voice. "The owner of this club," Zane said quietly. "The man they call Aries." He held her gaze, no longer hiding, no longer deflecting. "His name is Zane Adler," he said. "I'm Aries." If you want to see what happens after that reveal, Part 2 is waiting for you. Tell me your rating in the comments, and let's continue the story in the next episode.